Warren, the tight end, at 10. You'd be okay with that?
Well, he's kind of a template of Cole. To me, Jay Hood, I'm still offensive defensive lineman first.
Yeah. So what about the draft, Cap? You made a statement about, what if Mason Graham's not there? What if the linemen aren't there? What do you do at 10?
So, Tom, Shay threw this to us, and I said, okay, Will Campbell's off the board. I don't want to take a running back at 10 unless my scouts come to me and go, dude, this is Barry Sanders. We can't pass this. Let's assume he's a good back, but he's not that, so I'm not taking a back. Will Campbell's gone. Mason Graham is gone. Unless there's somebody that we have conviction on. If Will Johnson's there, the Michigan corner, he's 6'1", he's over 200 pounds, he's the best corner in the draft, would you take a corner? Because if he's the best guy on my board, I would.
Well, Cap, they say you can never have enough corners in the NFL, in this league, and what the high percentage of multiple receiver sets that you're going to face throughout his time in the NFL. Where do you think Tyreek Stevenson is pointed in terms of the trajectory of his career? And then you also have Terrell Smith. I think it's interesting that, you have to take him in consideration, because if you feel if there's a marquee corner out there and a guy that's going to be a shutdown guy, 1A, 1B type of corner, I always think that you have to keep him in the mix.
I really have a prayer circle out for Mason Graham, and I hope he's there at 10.
Me too.
But I'm not sure that he will. And Tom, it's like anything else. I try not to overthink this thing. I like what the Bears have done in the offseason, but I just know that I need to have more difference makers on the line, defensive line. And I was telling Cap earlier, I was like, you know what? What happens to the old peanut punch and just being able to create turnovers? You just didn't get enough of that last year either. So I think secondary and the line, Tom, that's got to happen, because it was just unlike any other Bears season where the defense did not have an impactful season.
Yeah. One thing, too, about Ben Johnson, already talked about the philosophical thinking up front by Dennis Allen, is the fact that he wants individual battles from every one of his defensive linemen against the offensive linemen they're facing. And when you see a guy like Mason Graham and his wrestling background and his productivity, if there's an offensive lineman he's playing against that doesn't have help to his right and his left, he's got that ability to earn the corner, force his weight and power upfield. And you only have to be destructive. It's not like he's going to be a guy that's going to disengage from his offensive lineman and then run the quarterback down. But if you can get him into a retreat position, get him uncomfortable in the pocket, get him off his spot, interrupt his throwing foundation, those are all the types of things that you're looking for. And then you have the opportunity to have the peanut punch or get your defensive back in a more reactive position to make those types of plays, to either force the ball out of the receiver's hands, turn it into an interception, or, make some type of creative downfield play.
In terms of looking at the Bears' skill position players, DJ's locked in. He's a stud. Obviously, Rome is a stud, and they think better days are ahead for him in year 2. Would you add a speed wide receiver, or could that be Tyler Scott? Do you think they need to get a better receiver at tight end?
That's a great question. To me, the tight end position, there's more man hours lost to injury at the tight end position than any other position in football. And then if you look at I think that the coaching staff did the most disservice to Cole Kmet last year and underutilizing his talents. He went from, I think, 73 catches to 47 catches last year. So, multiple tight end sets I like. You think about a tight end where they line up at inline tight end to the point of attack. They line up on the backside tight end to give you a little bit versatility. They line up wide at a wide receiver, and then they line up at fullback or H-back. So there's multiple uses for tight ends. Then you think of the red zone, you think of short yardage and goal line. So to me, I do think they brought in, 3 candidates at the wide receiver position that will be able to complement Rome and DJ. So if I was going there, they got Steven Carlson. They brought the kid in from Miami. They have those types of tight ends. But, there was a lot of criticism when Detroit a couple of years ago went and drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, even though they had Dave Montgomery. Then you really saw the production of that offense when they had a kind of a thunder and lightning back. Mm-hmm. So if you give me 2 thunder tight ends that are good pass receivers, and what that can do for a young developing quarterback like Caleb when you're talking about play action being used a lot more. Those guys are major influences in the totality of the offense, like I said, from wide receiver, online, backside, H-back, and fullback.
I hear what you're saying, Tom, but you know what? I think that you're leaning with that analysis. You wouldn't be surprised if Warren is there, Tyler Warren, the tight end at 10. You'd be okay with that?
Well, he's kind of a template of Cole. To me, Jay Hood, I'm still offensive defensive lineman first.
Yeah.
And then I'm also going to take the safety into consideration because I have too much uncertainty at that position, and the role and the importance of that position is a really big factor in what your capabilities are at the safety. And listen, we talked about it last week or a couple weeks ago. I'm still in the camp of Jaquan Brisker, but I'm also a realist, and I have concerns
that he's had issues
about him and Kevin Byard both. Not that Kevin Byard has had issues, but he is getting up there in years of service. So, offense and defensive line are my priority, but safety is that plan B attachment.
Because ultimately, guys, Caleb Williams in year number 2, he's got enough offensively. He does. There's 2 wide receivers right now. There's a tight end. The running game is going to be there for him. It's on him. I don't want to see points just in the third, late in the third, in the fourth quarter. I want to see points all the way across, and he's got enough weapons to get there, to get on the board with more seasoning. Let's go.
One thing about this offense is we always kind of start thinking about what are your first 15? What type of script are you going to open up the game with? And I do think that's really important, Jay Hood, is the fact that the Bears got to get on the board as quickly as possible, because then you start playing into the defensive game planning of Dennis Allen and allow him to be more being able to attack the line of scrimmage a little bit more, whether you want to utilize a guy like Kyler Gordon or the blitzing ability of the linebackers, or maybe, some of the exterior pass rush weapons that they do have.
Okay, so we asked this question to G. Thomas Waddle yesterday. I want to hear your answer to this. So they're challenging Caleb in a number of ways, and the door flies open, and Ben Johnson's quizzing the quarterbacks. But he's talked about how much they're going to play under center, which Caleb doesn't do. He hasn't done it very much at all. How tough is that transition so that when we get deep into training camp, it's second nature?
Yeah, I was listening to Waddle Wednesday every Wednesday morning, and I was listening to it yesterday. And listen, that's a fundamental of gosh dang football. How many shotgun snaps did Bob Greasy take? How many shotgun snaps did
Terry Bradshaw?
Terry Bradshaw and Roger Staubach and all these guys that are in the Hall of Fame, and they had Super Bowl production. It's just crazy to think that nowadays when you're talking about a quarterback taking under center snaps, that's a new fundamental of the game that you have to get used to. I think it's a little bit blown out of proportion, because I think Caleb he's got the athleticism, he's got everything that you need to do wherever you want to line him up at quarterback. And so I just think that under center snaps by a quarterback, it makes play action more deceptive. And you think of that stumble play that that Detroit pulled on the Bears. That was from under center. He rolled out to his left, act like he was stumbling. Everybody kind of dropped their guard, and then boom, you see the play over the top for a touchdown. So all the different things that you can do from under center, I think that it's incredibly important to what this offense can offer you.
What we've done here, Tom, is we have educated David Kaplan here, not just on football, but on Bob Ross.
This dude can paint, man. Hoodie put a video up here in the studio. I mean, he literally just had this blank canvas. Now it looks like Mount Kilimanjaro is coming into the clouds.
He does all those paintings within 30 minutes. He's not sitting up there, molding this clay and all that. He's painting these pictures in 30 minutes, man. And I'm telling you, if you ever go home and it's like 2 or 2:30 and you need to take a nap within a half hour, boom, put on a Bob Ross painting. listen to his voice, and even the new guy that they have in there for him. He's incredibly talented, and he's got that soft tone of voice the same way.
I can't wait for him to use the yellow that he's got on there. I want to see where the sun's going to be.
Listen, it's not just yellow. There's some type of yellow to it. And he explains all the colors that you need before he ever does the painting.
I think that Kap is just baffled by the hairdo. He doesn't understand why Bob has this big fro. He doesn't understand.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because, Bob Ross has straight hair. And then when he went into the Navy, he did that Afro style of haircut because it was cheaper and he didn't have to get as many haircuts. And then when he got out of the Navy, he let it straighten out again, and he lost a lot of his viewership. So then he brought the curly hair back, and it increased his viewership because people liked it more than the straight hair Bob Ross.
I'm just blown away.
See, Tom, we're helping him out. We're giving him the education.
I pour 3 fingers of bourbon and just sit back? Oh, my God.
I tell you what, put a nice Yingling alongside of it. You got yourself set up for an afternoon.
Oh,
That's right.
Man, a Yingling and a little bit of bourbon. Let's go.
And enjoying Bob Ross.
That's right.
That's a day for me.
That's a day.
Tom, as always, we appreciate the time.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
It is a Super Bowl champion, Tom Thayer, with us on the Yingling Hotline. So, Eric, let's aggregate that. Let's put that out there for the folks, that Kap learns about Bob Ross